Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today we're joined by the brilliant Sally Richards, who is the Managing Director of RaspberrySky Services. Sally, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Absolute pleasure.
It's brilliant to finally get you on the show. I know that we spoke about it sort of mid last year. So to finally get you on the show is an absolute pleasure for me, and I'm very happy to have you on. Today, we're actually going to be talking about some stuff that is a little bit off topic to what we usually have on the show, which I think people actually be quite surprised at, with obviously your background and obviously what your business does for clients. But as I say, I think we'll come on to that in just a second. But at the start of the show, we always like to hear about the guest, you know, your background, how you came to discover, I suppose, the hospitality and travel and tourism industry, and what led ultimately to you starting your own business, and I suppose what that business actually focuses on. So I suppose, Sally, please do tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure, no problem. So I was brought up in Cornwall, which is my constant love for being close to the sea. Funnily enough, living in the most landlocked county in the UK now, so not quite achieved that goal. But I studied travel and tourism in Cornwall when I left school, and then my first job was working for a TMC in Cornwall, and then I moved with that TMC to Oxford, to a larger branch, and all the excitement that living in Oxford brings, before I guess the big lights of London called, really. And a friend of mine got a job working at Qantas Airways in Chiswick. And she called me and said, oh, look, they're recruiting for other reservation agents. Why don't you apply? So I applied and got the job, and worked with Qantas and their tour operating arm for 3 years. And the great thing about that was, because we're going back to sort of the late 80s, early 90s, this was the time when after you'd worked for them a year, you could travel the world for free, all your tickets for free. Mm-hmm. So we used to go and have long weekends in Rio, long weekends in Dubai, in the days when there was just one hotel on the beach. It was bright pink, called the Chicago Beach Hotel. So going back some time, but great days, great memories. And then really got into hotels after that. I worked for UTEL for a number of years, for about 10 years. And in different roles, I guess sales, marketing, but eventually evolving into sort of commercial roles. And UTEL went through a merger, an acquisition, etc. So I spent a couple of years living in the States, which was great, and learning about all the different ways of working. And then eventually came back to the UK as VP marketing for UTEL. And then one reorganization too many. There's only so many times you can centralize, decentralize, centralize, decentralize. I'm a true believer, if you don't believe in the strategy of the organization, then it's your turn to leave. So I ended up leaving and working for a startup company called Leonardo, and working with them as commercial director to set up to create the first content switch in the industry. So working with rich content and images. And that was a great team. And I look back on it fondly for all of the laughter and memories that we had, because we used to fly a bit by the seat of our pants. But we managed to develop a SaaS-based hosted solution, which was a first. And we sold that solution into some of the biggest players in the market today. So into Travelport, Amadeus, Pegasus, Apodo, etc. And then they were later acquired by BFM. So after that due diligence process, I just decided to do something for myself. So at the time, co-founded RaspberrySky, and that was 15 years ago. So yeah, that's a bit of a whirlwind.
Definitely. And obviously, just for the audience, I know that we'll have a lot of people that will know exactly who you are. They'll probably know you or be connected with you and so on. But just for anybody that doesn't know, what is it that RaspberrySky Services focuses on?
So I guess because of my background, having worked in both what I call supply and demand, so I've worked on the travel agency and channel side, but also on the hotel side and with the technology distribution. Yeah. I guess we work with demand generators and hotel, anything with a bed or anything for component to be sold, actually. And we offer things like, I mean, the umbrella terms would be commercial reviews. So sometimes organizations have a point of pain. They may not know why that is. And they ask us to come in to do a review for them. And we will look at system, people, process. Inevitably, that underlying element is always identified through that process. So commercial reviews are a big thing. Generally, what happens after we've done a review is we'll write a report to say, this is the findings, this is what we think, the actions and activities that you need to take. And in most cases, we will then help that business project manage that in. We're not one of the agencies that will write a report and walk away. We actually roll our sleeves up, get our hands dirty, get under the bonnet and help them with the business, bring in the hearts and minds with them, transition their business and a bit of a change management process.
Yeah.
Part of the thing we do is also system procurement. If people organizations think, you know, my technical stack or my PMS or my revenue management system or my CRS is old, or is there something better out there? Particularly at this time, you know, when we're looking at digital journeys and things like that, you know, does my technology support my customer journey? We do a lot of system procurements and things. So we have a wide customer base, and quite often our briefs are quite fluid. You know, there'll be people we know in the industry that will contact us and say, look, we don't think this is working quite right. We're not quite sure what the problem is. Can you help us? So that's the kind of thing we do.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Again, just more for the benefit of the audience, just to make sure that they're fully aware of what you do, and obviously what the business does and what it focuses on and so on. Okay, so moving on to, I suppose, what obviously we wanted to talk about. And as I said, this episode is going to go in a very different direction to what we usually do. Now, obviously, with regards to the times that we find ourselves in, you know, one of the biggest things, and I've actually had somebody on the show to talk about well-being within businesses and so on, but I think it would be quite a good time to be talking about us personally. Well-being, our mindset, our, I suppose, general wellness in a lot of ways, from a mental health point of view, from a physical health point of view, and also obviously that will always trickle down to your professional life. Of course it will. Anything that's going on in your personal life will always be reflected in your business, and anything in your business life will most of the time be affected by your personal as well. So I suppose to kick it off, how are you doing?
Well, thank you, Tom. I don't know. I was reflecting on this after we had our little chat and sort of thinking about, you know, how am I feeling? I think I'm feeling good at the moment. January, February is not my favorite time of year anyway, I have to say. Yeah. It's a pretty dire, isn't it? The UK, cold, wet, dark, everything's finished.
Snowing, for God's sake, there's enough snow.
Yeah, you've got snow. We haven't had snow. But I think actually, I guess what I've learned in the last 12 months, and I think actually 2020, I think was the hardest I worked for very little revenue gain, actually, because of the industry. And I think I exhausted myself and took some time, I guess, to just think about, you know, what's important. And I think it's the simple things. I mean, isn't it? It's family, it's friends, it's community, it's, I don't know, it's the ability to share and to help and support others. I mean, you've done that, Tom, in terms of, you know, your webinars and your TV series, in terms of, you know, flipping that on its head and, you know, actually, you know, showcasing people who are looking for roles and things. So, I mean, you must think pretty much the same, huh?
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to agree with you on is, I think 2020, for myself, yeah, I don't think I've ever worked as hard, but also as, in a lot of ways, as smart. You've had to really think on your feet. And in my experience anyway, it was very much on a day-by-day basis. I was like, okay, how do I challenge myself today? But how do I make something happen? I mean, let's be honest here. You know, yes, my firm works in recruitment, which is already low, but I also work focusing on the hospitality industry, which is incredibly low right
Yes.
now. And not only that, I also work in a very small niche within that.
It's your funnel.
Oh God. Yeah, so the sort of focus of the business has had to really shift. And as you say, with regards to working hard, yeah, and it's been for relatively a lot lower revenue than it would have been before, which has been quite an odd one for any recruitment consultant out there, to be honest, and any business owner. So yeah, that one, I definitely agree with you. Start of the year is always a difficult one. It's one of these things where everything was very slow at the start of the year. Well, I kind of wish it was a little bit slower this year. But anyway, it's generally things start moving very slowly and everyone's a bit sort of lethargic and coming out of the Christmas break. And it does seem like a bit of a down sort of period. It's really sort of the end of Q1, start of Q2 where everything starts to pick up.
Yeah.
You see energy and all the rest of it. And in terms of obviously, I suppose me, yeah, I mean, I'm all right. I think it's one of these things where I'm naturally a positive person anyway, so I sort of thrive off that. But at the same time, and thank you obviously for mentioning the candidate videos, because I think it's one of these things where those were something that, for me, it was a culture shift and a dynamic change, because it's not in our very fibers to allow, I don't even know if that's the right word, but enable candidates that are on our books to promote themselves to potential employers, because of course it cuts us out.
I think that's the whole beauty of, like, you know, what are the positives that have come out of the last 12 months? And one thing is that, you know, it's okay to do things differently.
Yes.
It's okay to try new things. It's okay to do them and they fail, you know, and they're not successful, they fail. I mean, that's okay too, isn't it? I mean, and if now's not the opportunity to tip things on its head a bit and say, let's try something different, you know, then when is? Do you know what I mean?
I think it was one of those, I found 2020 to be one of those years where, as you say, you could literally just try anything. It doesn't matter anymore.
No, exactly.
You've got a year of experimentation, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And as I said, it was very much on a day-by-day basis. Let's go with this. If it catches on, then great. And I sort of spoke on a show about that candidate interview stuff, and I said to the presenter of that one, I said, look, it was never about the return on the investment side of things, because it still cost the business money.
Yeah.
It was about the presence, the credibility, the response from the industry from those videos was immense.
I mean, and that's priceless though, Tom, huh?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah.
You can't buy that kind of PR, you know, like.
And again, it was one of these things that we just fell into it. And I think with so many people right now, the one thing that I've, I suppose, caught onto or realized is that the human element of my industry, but I think a lot of industries, has been lost massively. We forget. And I think 2020 reminded us all, because as you say, family, friends, the things that were important to us were actually just the simple things.
Yeah.
We are social creatures at the end of the day.
Yes.
Of interaction. Let me put it for example. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I went to a face-to-face conference last year. It was Hospice.
Yes.
And I sponsored and spoke at that, but it was the first time in 8 months that I'd traveled anywhere and that I'd seen other people in the professional world. And I'm quite a confident and sort of, you know, outgoing person, but I walked into that room thinking, ooh, okay, there's a lot of people here and there's cameras there, and I don't know if I could, you know, and I was very nervous. And
we're only used to seeing this part up as well. We don't know what you look like from here down, do we?
And you only get to see this sort of area of this sort of thing. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't know, obviously, if you had any face-to-face interactions last year or you're going to be having any, but there was an anxiety there for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. It's almost like you've forgotten you've forgotten how that feels and that those skills. Do you know what I mean? Of just actually, I guess you didn't, there was no contact, was there? So it's kind of, also it's that kind of how you deal with that, being with people but not actually being able to shake their hand, or kind of it's kind of being there but not being there as well, isn't it? It's kind of a bit unknowny, I guess.
Massively. And that brings me on to, I suppose, the question of people being at home right now. So obviously people out there that are either out of work, unfortunately, or furloughed, and there's this constant anxiety about work, obviously, professional life, but that being compounded with the fact that they are at home. You can go out very little, especially during lockdown periods. And I think that well-being piece, that sort of keeping yourself engaged and so on, is such an important element, because we can't, life isn't the same. And it's, we're talking about the new normal and all the rest of it, but I don't even see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately, because of this.
No, I don't even know. I don't even know what that looks like, to be perfectly honest, anymore. So I think it's a really good point. I think, and I'm by no means a specialist in any of this at all. I should precursor this, but I kind of bumble my way through what I think is good, bad, and ugly, and it changes quite frequently as well. But I think if you can get a sort of rhythm in your life, and I struggled with this for the last year, taking things up, doing it for a few days or maybe a couple of weeks, and then going, it's not for me. And then, I think if you can find a rhythm to start your day, and I got better at that, I think, towards the end of last year. So I think just taking time to, as you wake up in the morning, before you start your mad day, I mean, if you've got animals, children, husbands, wife, it's even more chaotic, isn't it? But I think just taking time to just be, and that could just be just to sit on the side of your bed before you jump into the shower and just sit.
Yeah.
And it's just try and clear your mind, or, for want of a better term, meditation, which I find really tricky anyway, or a bit of yoga, a bit of stretching, and to do something on a regular basis, to find a bit of routine. And it might start out being that you sit there for 2 minutes. The next week might be 3. You might get it up to 10 minutes or something, and that's okay. That's really okay. Just to sort of get your mind in the right, get your thoughts out of your head before you start your day. And I think little things like that helpful. And also take a break in your day. I think, nature, walk, fresh air, again, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. Take the break away from the desk, because I'm fortunate, and it looks like you are too, that we have some sort of office space. But if you're working off your kitchen table, or if and you've got kids homeschooling, just try and, if you can, take a bit of time. I mean, I appreciate nature more now than I think I ever did. Maybe it's an age thing, I don't know. But I put some bird seed out recently, which I haven't done for a while. I feel a bit bad because they've gone mad for the food, so they're obviously really hungry. But we have a woodpecker that comes and visits, and I am just so delighted when I see him. It makes my heart feel good. It makes my soul feel good. Do you know what I mean? I kind of think, oh, great, like a woodpecker, it just seems like a real magical thing. And I think you just appreciate smaller, simple things, don't you? And I think it's about making sure you've got time for those in your day. Even if you're in a flat and you've got a window box, or put a plant in it, or just something that makes you just think about nature. I think that really helps.
I was going to say, you talk about plants. There's a bit of a running joke on this channel, to be honest. The audience will keep an eye on the types of plants that I've got in the background. And on 2 separate occasions, I've had a plant that's not looked that great, and they made it very clear that I should either take care of it or replace it.
Brilliant!
Some lovely lilies.
Looks like lilies today.
I was going to say, somebody commented saying that they were fake one time, and I was like, no, actually, not real. But no, I completely agree with you in the fact that I've found it a lot more beneficial for me to step out of the house. A lot of the times, and this is me being completely honest, I've had to be almost persuaded. I'll be in the midst of something, or I'll be in the middle of something, and then my girlfriend will say, look, let's get out of the house, let's take the dogs for a walk. And I'm like, yeah, I will. but I just need to finish this. The problem is, I find, is there's always something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before I know it, because it gets dark so early now as well.
Yes.
I know it's dark, it's cold, it's raining, and then all of a sudden the day's gone.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Trying to implement these sort of almost practices in the morning, first thing you get up, something that I've tried to do, and I don't know, you might agree with this one, but something I religiously did every single morning. As soon as I woke up, I grabbed my phone, I check emails and all the rest of it.
You see, I don't think you should I don't take my phone upstairs. My phone never goes in the bedroom, ever.
That's what I want to start doing.
Because we're not saving lives, Tom. We really are not saving lives. And actually, I first pick that up by the time when I get downstairs. It's in the kitchen. I've had my, morning shower, whatever. I've come down, I put the kettle on, and then I pick my phone up. And do you know what? There's no Mayday.
No.
There's no life to save.
It's true. And you know what? I think tomorrow, and I mean this, tomorrow I'm going to try it for the first time. I'm going to leave my phone downstairs in the kitchen, and I'm going to come down. Like, the only time I'm going to look at it is by the time when I come down.
Yeah.
Try really hard to not do that, because I think I've always had this thing where, now I own my own business. I have to be on it all the time. I can't miss anything. But you're right. We're not saving lives. There's nothing that's so time urgent that it's not going to wait until 8:39 in the morning. It's just
exactly. Exactly.
And I do think and I don't want to dive too much into this, but like, the main things I jump on are social media, platforms. So your Instagrams and mainly LinkedIn, and I'll immediately start scrolling. And I do feel myself sort of going into this almost zone where I just find
hours, but you can wait an hour, 2 hours, just can't you?
And you got to fall into this pit. And I think there's so much more positivity that can be taken out of the morning rather than the afternoon, because, as you say, get up and get out of the house, go for a morning walk with the dogs or the kids or whatever, or have that morning routine where you do have a bit of silence and a bit of quiet, whether it's meditation or other terminologies for it. But
I think the whole social thing, and we know. I mean, we know the pros and cons, and we know why it's good and why it's bad, and when it works and when it doesn't. But I think it's habit, and that's the problem, isn't it? And it's trying to change that habit. Have you heard of a guy called Wim Hof?
Yes,
the Iceman.
I've watched. I watched a episode of Russell Brand's.
Oh yeah.
And I watched the whole thing from start to finish. It was absolutely brilliant, and I love him, to be honest.
He is, he's absolutely great and free. So something good for social media. So for free, you can download the Wim Hof breathing sessions that he does. Yeah. And he's such a Viking, isn't he? He's like, feel it and it's all okay. And it's this kind of like resounding deep, sort of like Scandi kind of voice. And there's a little group I have, and we once a week at about 9 o'clock at night, we all meet in our virtual area, group in whatever houses you're in on WhatsApp, and we do the Wim Hof, and we do Wim Hof breathing. We do the 4 different breathing things, and I love him actually. And I don't do it every week, and sometimes I don't do it at that time. I do it later. I'll do it another day. But the deep breathing, the holding of the breath, and the cold showers, I love it. I think it's great.
As a result of that, at the end of a hot shower, I'll always crank it
cold, down to cold,
bang, and it's just like this sudden burst, and I'm like, I haven't been able to have just a whole cold shower, but yeah, that last sort of 20-second absolute freezing.
Yeah. And it does do that. I mean, when I do the same. I try to do like a warm shower, and then I go down to 0, and I can last about a minute now. But I don't put my head right under. I've done that a few times. It's so painful. It's like,
it's that, doesn't it? It's right around of your head.
Yes. But actually, when I do it and I get out the shower, I do feel more exhilarated. I do feel more awake. I feel more right and ready for my day. And
you know.
You're doing what he does, where he basically jumps into a freezing cold lake, like completely naked or whatever. So, you know.
I know. But there's so many people now. Do you see it? I mean, doing swims, lake swims, swimming in the sea in the winter. I don't know. It's just I'm getting older. My friends are getting older, but they seem to want to do that a lot. I quite fancy that. I quite fancy doing that.
Do it. Let me know how you get on, because somebody else has actually been talking to me about trying it out, and I'm like, no. My first response was no. But
I can imagine you doing that. I think that would be super cool. Up in Derby, there must be some big lake things, aren't there?
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, we've got some beautiful places around here, but I'm just kind of like, that sounds like hell to me. But I'm one of these people that I will give it a go, but again, I'll have to be I'll have to be persuaded and dragged and all the rest of it. And a lot of the time, I'm sort of enjoying it while I'm in it. But then if I try and come back to doing it again, I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, you remember it. It's like a bad. It's like going to the dentist. No, I don't want to do that again.
This is it. And I suppose that almost, I suppose in a way, it does bring me on to my sort of next question, which is related to well-being, because I know how it's made me feel, and I know obviously how it's made you feel when you've done it as well. And it's this element of self-gratification from giving back.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people during the pandemic that have been talking to me anyway on my episodes and things, if they have been on furlough and things, they've been volunteering. They've been doing things for food banks and all this sort of stuff. And it's been brilliant to hear. But one of the things that you and I have got actually in common is actually going back to universities and guest lecturing. And there's something that obviously we find quite fulfilling in that. And obviously we spoke about going back to our schools, going back to our secondary schools and having an opportunity to talk to the young people that were in sort of our positions way back when. And I suppose my sort of question to you is, how, first off, did you come up or go about lecturing in university or guest lecturing in universities? And how did that make you feel initially?
Well, I first had the opportunity actually with, I'm going to get this right, Snapshot, with Janelle and a guy whose name escapes me, and he'll kill me for that. Anyway, at EHL in Lucerne, and they asked me if I would go and lecture on their distribution revenue module.
Yes.
And it was an all day lecture. And it was based on their slides. I'll never forget it. And I was just like, oh my God, yes, no, yeah, I'll do it. I thought, God, surely it's going to be okay. It was okay. And what I really loved about it was you're sitting in front of a group of early 20-year-old ladies and gentlemen who are embarking on, the industry. And you're trying to explain distribution and what happens, and and they're kind of like looking at you like you're some alien life form as to why would that be why would it work that way? Why wouldn't you do X, Y, Z? And you go, I know. We have made our industry really complicated, and it's based on legacy, and But what I find quite inspiring is there's just new life, new blood there, new ways of thinking. And, there's a lot of bright people out there who I really, really hope do really come into the industry and, take it by the scruff of its neck and drag it into something which, will really, truly be next generation. Because I think we need those new brains, new minds coming forward that think differently, and approach the industry differently. So EHL is a great one. I've done a bit of London Partners. In fact, I got an email today from The Hague for a student who's writing a report and wants a bit of help on AI and digital maturity and stuff. And it's like, yeah, great. Love to do that sort of stuff. But I also have a 17-year-old son who's just in A-level mode.
Right.
And so many of his friends are so super stressed by exams, and I kind of want to say, I know it's important, but equally it's not life and death. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not trying to get them to get the head around. It's about their personality. It's about them as an individual. It's about, there's there's more to it than an exam grade on a piece of paper.
Mhm.
And that's when we spoke about, wouldn't it be great to go back to school, and give them our wisdom. Tell them that, it's not life and death, there's more to life, there's more facets to life and business.
This is it. And it was something that first off, yeah, that's very similar to myself. Is I fell into guest lecturing at Glion through a good friend of mine, Michael Hayward, who I know you know as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
And Michael basically approached me 3 or 4 years ago, and he sort of said, look, I think it'd be really good for somebody who's connected in the industry, but not just from an employment point of view, as in sort of an employer, but somebody who sort of is involved in lots of different places and understands how it all works. So I was like, oh, okay, I really don't know about it. I said, I'll give it a go. But again, sitting in a room full of students that are brilliant in so many ways, and I'm there sort of going, hi guys. And it was actually incredibly intimidating, but they were so kind. And as you say, they are brimming with brilliant ideas and passion and enthusiasm. All the things that we lost over the years.
You old cynic, you.
Oh, God. I thought, I hate all of you. Not cool. Then obviously rippled into working with a number of other universities, Oxford, Brookes, and
yes,
University of Essex, the hotel school there, Edge, which is amazing. And it became this sort of regular thing. I'm, with Glion especially, we've got such a great relationship, and I'm there a few times a year now as part of a marked course, which I'm thrilled to be a part of. But you're right, there are so many incredible young future commercial leaders that are in these institutions, and they just need that opportunity. And I've been a huge advocate through many different platforms and my own to get these guys straight into jobs. And don't get me wrong, internships and graduate schemes are great and they do their job, but I've always been focused on getting them straight into, from my perspective anyway, straight into a revenue management job, full time, with real career prospects within that. And it's been great. We've had some great success with that. But we're already seeing these incredible people implementing new ideas, pushing things forward, knocking on their managers' doors, asking for more projects and different things that they can do.
Yeah, it's great though, isn't it? I mean, it's great that you, in your role as well, can be the conduit that brings the two elements together. Identify that talent and the best cultural fit from a organization perspective that's open to, bringing young people in with very little work experience, but with a real, great mind and energy, You
know what? It comes down to the clients. I mean, obviously, I'm very proud of that fact, and we're continuing to do it. But the clients that took a punt. So the first one that ever took a graduate with no experience at all into a revenue management job through me was Neetu, when she worked at RBH. I don't know if you know Neetu, but Neetu is the head of revenue at RBH, and she took a punt. She just sort of said, you know what? Yeah.
Why not?
I believe that this is the right way to go, and I believe that this is what our industry need to do. And it was a huge success. They came on board, and it was almost like these other clients and competitors and all the rest of it heard about this, and then they jumped on it. And then we had Accor and Marriott and the big boys taking students on, and now it's just a conveyor belt. Every year,
right, isn't that?
We have 2 graduations, and every year we have some fantastic students. And it's one of these things that it's something that as a culture within our industry, we have to be focusing more on, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But that, actually, you touched on it a moment ago, actually, going back to your school. I thought me and you are definitely on the same page on this, because I would love, and you said about departing wisdom. I don't know if I go far to say that.
Old crony coming in to say how it used to be in my day. I don't know.
You don't know how lucky you are.
In my day, they used to make us cross that bridge in the rain. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of would be so cool, wouldn't it, for schools to do more of that? I mean, I have been to went to school, I think it was last year, it must have been the year before, to chat to an A-level group. They'd had a question that was travel hospitality, and they contacted me and said, oh, you know, would you come in for a chat? And I was like, oh god, this is like going into a classroom full of my sons. I'm like, this is just not going to be great. But it was really rewarding, actually. And I think if there was more of that going on, like, you know, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be your school, but it would kind of would have been nice to go back to your school. I mean, mine's in Cornwall, but I mean, it would be nice to go in and go, I've been here, I've been there. This, you know, I get this. And also, I think if you go back to your own school, you kind of understand that town,
yeah.
that what it's like to grow up there. You know, where I grew up, it was very you know, gosh, we still had, you know, mining back then, and you know, tourism it was on the cusp, really. You know, well, you know, I used to work in a sweet shop on a Saturday, Sunday, and serving ice creams, and we all had jobs in the pub when we were a bit older and stuff like that. But out came the Cornish twang then, don't know if you noticed that. But but I think if you went back to your own one, you'd understand what that little market, that little sort of microcosm of society is like. You know, I think it would be cool, wouldn't it?
No, this is it. And
what would you tell them though, Tom? What would you say? What would your wisdom be?
What would I say? Do you know what? I'd say, no matter how, this is obviously coming from very personal, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but just no matter how difficult things seem, it will never be as bad as you think it will be.
Mm.
And you know, life will be what you make of it. I think that's just from my personal experience and obviously what I've experienced. But I suppose that's the route I'd probably go down, is you're all amazing and you'll realize why you're amazing and sort of find your feet. But
yeah,
no matter how dark things seem, they'll never be as bad as you think they will be.
And I think life it always will throw you a curveball, you know, and it's kind of how you deal with that. And, you know, however, as you say, however bad you think it is at the time, you know, there is light. It will, you know, you do come out of that. And
hold on, I'm not getting out of this. What would you tell them? Put that
I would say, don't lose your spirit, don't lose your personality. Be who you are, be true to yourself, you know, because however off the wall or naughty or devious or, you know, like, there's a place for everyone, I think. You know, there's something for everyone. And I remember years and years ago working for a lady called Trish Warwick, and when I went to UTAL, and I was a bit sort of, I know you find this hard to believe, Tom, I was a bit gobby. But everything was really important and passionate about everything. And I remember having a bollocking one time, and by her boss, and then she called me in for a meeting, and I thought, oh, this is curtains. This, you know, I've overstepped the mark. And she called me in and we had a chat, and then she said, Sally, don't ever lose your spirit. Don't change your personality. You are who you are, and you know, you'll find your place. And so I now have to have my own company. But unemployable, no, but you know, you will find your thing, you know, you will find your thing.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll twist. It's a bit like, you know, it's just you don't move in a straight line, do you, in your life? You know, things happen and you take a left or a right, or, you know, and as Wim Hof would say, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, definitely.
Isn't it? I mean,
it's weird as well. If I think about it, if I listen to what we've just said, to what we'd say to young people in the schools that we're in, I would arguably say that to anybody in their in their lives, right?
Yes.
Older, no matter what age they are, actually, because I think we are in danger of, and I lost myself at one point, you know, a fair few years ago now, but I became something I wasn't. And I think as we become adults, our imagination and our creativity and everything else almost just gets, you know, squeezed out of us.
Yeah.
And we become, you know, almost institutionalized. It all starts with exams, and, you know, morning routines at school and doing what you're told and sitting at the tables, and it's sort of stepping away and breaking that institutionalization and becoming who you are again. I had very much a period of time where it was a self-discovery piece, I gotta say.
Yeah, and I think if we're all truthful, I think we all go through that at different stages in our lives. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of, and I think literally the last 12 months has made a lot of people have that time to think earlier in their life, perhaps than later, you know, in terms of what's important and, you know, where they want to be, and, you know, and all the very successful kind of, you know, people in business, they all say it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay for things to go wrong, and then, you know, and you just change it and move on, you know. But I've got a question for you, Tom. How important is music in your life? Because I can see a saxophone back there. I won't ask you to play it, obviously.
No, thank God for that. Thank God for that. So that saxophone, a lot of people ask about this saxophone. A lot like
cool.
And it's actually my girlfriend's mum's who used to play. But I suppose music has always actually played quite a big part of my life. I learned the bass guitar, and I played bass in a band when I was a lot younger. I was in the band for a few years, but that was actually as a result. So I've actually grown up with music, to be quite honest with you. My dad was a bassist in a band in the 60s.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he traveled Europe. He traveled in the back of this van, and he used to tell me about the stories of him and my Uncle Michael. So my Uncle Michael was the keyboardist or whatever, and my dad was the bassist. And all of them were my uncles. I'd always sort of see them as an uncle. When obviously I was born, and I sort of met them and whatever. And he used to tell me all the incredible days of when he used to play bass, and it was one of these things where, and I've still got photos. Have I got any up here? No, I don't. Oh, that's annoying. So I've got these photos of him doing these promo things with all these cravats and these jeans and everything else. And it was incredible. And seeing the pictures of them on the road in the back of this van.
How cool.
I used to think, I'd love that. So I got into a band, and ever since then, really, music's always been a big part of my life. So yeah, the saxophone, slightly not to do with me, but music still is certainly something big to me. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a question there behind you. The fact that you've asked me that question, why? Go on, tell me. You know what?
Yeah, well, I can't confess I'm a singer or I play any instruments or anything like that. But I've always loved music. I was laughing with you with your, you know, your dad driving the van. My first boyfriend had a band, and I used to be the roadie and drive the van, obviously because they were too drunk, having had played a set late at night in some, you know, pub or nightclub or something like that. And I have very fond memories of that, and quite an eclectic, I guess, music that I like, you know. I still love all the oldies stuff, you know. But I was at the weekend, actually, I had one of your social media moments because my husband was watching Manchester United versus Liverpool.
Okay.
So I was upstairs and I took the iPad up and I was looking at music videos, and Paul Weller, I mean, what a man, what a dude, you know, listening to some of that stuff, and I think the great thing with music, it just takes you back to a point in time in your life when, you know, I remember you too. I remember being sort of 18 and Under a Blood Red Sky came out and playing it so loud on a Friday night, you know, driving up to a nightclub or something like that, you know, and just great memories. I think that's the thing, isn't it? So yeah, I love live music. Absolutely adore live music.
I think that's one of the beautiful things actually about music is so a lot of people, so again, like you, I have a very eclectic taste in music. The band I was in was very, very heavy metal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that was very heavy. But
I'm a Foo Fighter fan.
Oh, there you go, Foo Fighters, love them, absolutely brilliant. So we've got that, but I've been to concerts. So I had the absolute pleasure of seeing Earth, Wind and Fire live.
Oh, amazing.
That to me was incredible. And then this is a really sort of more oldie one, but Christopher Cross.
Oh my God, now you're going back. That's before my time.
So my dad, when he used to drive up and down the UK, we'd always listen to Christopher Cross, and there's something in it that just gives you, for me anyway, just gives you goosebumps. I remember the long car rides and stuff like that. And we saw him in the Royal Albert Hall, not last year, the year before, and it was incredible. And there was obviously a generation difference. And I had a woman actually come up to me with my parents and everything else, because I came down for it. And she said, "Do you even know who this guy is?" And I was like,
really?
I said, "Believe it or not, yeah, I do." And she saw me singing along and everything else. And I was like, "Yeah, I do. This is part of my childhood. This was my soundtrack." And my dad was sort of talking to her in the end. But it's one of those things where music isn't generational at all.
No. Although some of the music my son listens to, I think, is quite generational. I've not quite got into the rap stuff, I have to say, but equally, so a funny story is that I've always been a Kate Bush fan. You know, my first album I ever bought was Lionheart. I'm a real Kate Bush fan. And I'd always said, if ever she tours, you know, I'm there. And several years ago, she did her tour. Right. And everyone I'd ever spoken to was like, "Oh, she's dreadful. Oh, I don't like her." You know, I'd never met a Kate Bush fan. So when her tickets went on sale, I thought, this is going to be dead easy, because I'm going to be the only one in the world that wants to get a ticket. And I couldn't get tickets. And I was absolutely devastated. So I ended up having to buy one on the black market and going there. And it was all sort of like, you had to show your passport, you had to match it. I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. Anyway, I got in, and it was like, I almost like cried the whole way through it, because I just could not believe that I was, you know, one of the such fortunate ones that got to see her in Hammersmith on her tour. I mean, it was amazing.
The Apollo, by any chance?
Yes.
The Apollo. I love the venue at the Apollo is incredible.
Yeah. So the other thing I think is really important, right, as well as music, is laughter. So what makes you laugh? And I'll help you with this, because I found something last week that made me laugh so much. It was so good for the soul. I thought, you know, I'm going to watch this every week. There was a thing on Facebook. Yeah. It was from 1987, and it was the BBC following a group of adults on their first ski trip.
Okay.
Have you ever been skiing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to send you the link, because if you don't absolutely roar with laughter, I will be amazed. Honestly, it is the funniest thing I've seen. Because they've got no ski gear anyway in 1987, and the poor guy Kevin and his friend who get off the button lift too soon. You know, that rolling back, taking everyone out as you go back kind of thing. It was brilliant. Yeah. And I think, you know, if you can laugh every day at something, then
I do you know what? A lot probably makes me laugh a bit, because again, I am a very positive person, but I am a dark comedy type person. I love sort of testing that sort of borderline type stuff. There's a movie that I absolutely adore. And it is a comedy, but it touches on so many difficult and dark things. It's called The Death of Stalin. I don't know if you've ever...
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
Oh, my God. It's a brilliant political satire film. And it's basically as if Stalin basically has a heart attack in his office. And there's all of his entourage and all of his sort of ministers and everything else all basically club around and they're like, is he actually dead? Because obviously they would never admit that he was dead. They just couldn't, because he was like a god. It was the most incredible film, and that is one that absolutely gets me every time. So if you love...
Oh, no, I'll have to look out for that.
Honestly, check it out. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, a really good movie, a really good comedy movie will always get me. I love the oldies, like Norman Wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
I've sort of this box set with about 9 films in it, and all with Norman Wisdom. It's incredible. Dog videos will always get me.
Dog videos. Just be careful about that.
I could scroll through Instagram or whatever, just looking at dog videos. In fact, I have done it, if I'm honest. So shoot me. There's me being completely honest and transparent. But yeah, just stupid stuff. And again, my girlfriend and I, we, you know, if something going on in the house, or, you know, I'll always, she knows when I'm joking, but I always pick her throughout the day. And there's always this look that I'll get, and it cracks me up, because then she'll cotton on, and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, actually. I hadn't thought of that, but
Laughter
is actually a really, really important one. A much more important one than I actually gave it credit for.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when I saw this video the other week, last week, and I laughed, and then I shared it, and so many people were kind of like, oh my, and like it's made me laugh so much. I thought, oh, do you know, we just need more of that, don't we?
I do agree, and for it to be genuine as well. Just that's, and again, I come back to the first point, but it's just bringing that human element back, and that back, and that, you know, communication, whether it be through digital means or whatever, but just that sort of, the very thought of you sending a video to somebody to make them laugh.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But it's the thought process behind it. I know that this is going to make somebody laugh, so I'm going to send it to them. That's a beautiful thing in itself.
I'm going to send you the link to the skiing video. So
I'll send you a link to where you can watch Death of Stalin.
Yes, that's a deal. Absolute deal.
I suppose let's end. Unfortunately, let's end the video, but let's end it on a really good note, I suppose. Let me have a think. No, I don't even want to go down the advice route. What would you say to people right now that are out there, that are feeling, you know, a bit tired with everything, and a bit sort of overwhelmed by stuff? What would you say to them at the moment to give them a bit of a positivity kick for the week ahead?
I think reach out to a friend. Don't do it alone. You know, there are people there to help, and friends and colleagues that you can reach out to. I think everybody has so much a better appreciation of what people are going through now than ever before, and I think people have time to give to help. So I think if you're having a rough time, if you're having a bit of doubts, I think reach out to friends and colleagues for help and support. For definitely don't suffer alone.
No, talk to somebody. I definitely agree with that one.
How about you? What advice would you give?
It's a good one. I think, you know, so many times it's always about stay positive, keep your chin up, and all the rest of it.
So easy to say the words, isn't it? But not actually feel it. I think that's the thing.
And I do like your reach out one. I think my one would probably be something along the lines of the simple things, you know, reconnect with the things that you really love. And it doesn't always have to just be sitting on the couch watching a movie, unless that's obviously something that you're passionate about. But, you know, cook, you know, create something at home. Maybe even, you know, something that we started doing was baking, not because, oh, we want to bake, but because it was something that we could do together.
Yes.
Yes. Even if it's not connecting with other people, I have a very bad habit of keeping things to myself, and it's something I'm trying to work on personally. But be open with people about what you're going through. Obviously, you said about connecting with people. I think there's very similar stuff in there. But even if it is just going for a walk with a significant other, or baking, or doing something, get creative with whatever it is that you've got going on. Because now is the time, I mean, the worst way possible. We've got a bit more time on our hands for all the better or worse reasons we have. And find the opportunities to find positivity in that.
Yeah. And do a bit of Wim Hof.
Do it. Oh my God. Check out Wim Hof. In fact, I'm going
to put the link in.
I'm gonna put a link in below, because I think that's such a good one. So I'm actually going to put a link in below for that. So what I'd say is,
I think so.
Thank you, Sally, for joining me today. It's actually been so lovely. This has actually made my week. We're on a Tuesday today, and I feel, no, we're not. We're on a Monday.
Only Monday.
I'm feeling really good.
I'm so glad you were open to doing a different format and something interactive, because I think we've all learned a bit about you as well, which is great. And I hope, if nothing else, it's given people a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
A bit lively.
So.
Maybe they watched the whole hour. Oh my God.
If they do, if anybody is watching up until this point, comment below, because I'd love to.
Comment below.
Yeah.
The code word is Icarus. You have to put that in, otherwise we'll know you've not listened. Or saxophone. Yes, then we'll know.
Yeah, exactly that.
Pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. And guys, if you are sticking with us up until this point, thank you so much for sticking with us. We hope that obviously you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you check out the link below for Wim Hof. I'll also be tagging Sally below as well, so you can check out her profile. But again, one thing I would mention as well, you've actually done your own online show. So something to obviously maybe for us to tag, I don't know. Would you like us to do that?
No, don't worry. It's in the profile. It's the Straight Talking series on the website, blah, 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 blah.
Well, the Straight Talking series is on Sally's LinkedIn. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, guys. Don't forget to see who's on next week's episode now.